Kalamazoo's Rock Station 107.7 RKR. It's a Rock Morning Show with Mark Frankhouse.
And Meatball.
And we are joined with a very special guest, producer, author, actor, all-around great guy, Jason McHugh. Welcome to the Rock Morning Show, dude.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
Totally, dude. Now, how's the family been navigating through the pandemic? I mean, we're kind of coming through the other side of it, and you're in California, correct?
That's right. Interesting. I got two young boys, and so I feel like we sort of got lucky because of where their age was in relation to when the pandemic started, and that was just like preschool and entering school. So my oldest son did kindergarten in a walk-in closet office that we created for him.
Oh my God.
And it was super weird as it was for everybody. But we got through it as a tight little family unit and came out the other side all right.
That's good.
Yeah. Now, obviously, family seems very important to you. Can you tell us about like your family life growing up? Like when you kind of discovered even that like acting and all this, that you do now, like when you decided that really wanted to be a big part of your life?
Yeah. Interesting question. I grew up in Mill Valley, California, and both my parents were artists, and they actually had this psychedelic poster company called East Totem West. And cool. So I grew up, like in a sea of hippies. I actually thought my parents were friends with the Beatles because we had so many weird people over at our house all the time. And then when the White Album came out, they had all these portraits of the Beatles, so they were just around. So I just assumed we were hanging out with the Beatles during my childhood. And actually later in life, my dad became friends with David Crosby, so it wasn't too far off the mark. But yeah, I had super creative parents, and I grew up in an artistic, lifestyle. And so when I got to college, I knew I wanted to do something creative, but I didn't want to exactly follow in their exact footsteps, which did end up happening later in life anyway. Yeah, so that's where I discovered, film. I was at CU Boulder, and then took, my first acting class, and that's where I met Trey Parker and Dean Barr. So that's kind of how it all sort of started, I guess.
Yeah, between Dean and Trey Parker, Matt Stone, like, did you know any of these guys beforehand, or like you actually just met them all right there in college, and was it immediate like a click with you guys?
Yeah, well, so it's funny. Yeah, so like when we got to intermediate film, our film teacher, Jerry Aronson, said, look around the room because there's probably going to be some people in this room that you've become long-term friends with and, blah, blah, blah. And you look around the room and you're like, yeah, I don't think so. Who are these nerds? I don't think so. But anyway, then, the way we did film there it was very collaborative. So everybody got to make their own short film, and then you'd recruit friends to act in it or to be a crew on it. And so over the course of doing that for a couple of semesters, you sort of find your people, who you relate to, creatively and just on a friend level. And so we're all doing short films and meeting each other and helping each other out. And that's sort of how the team got together.
In those early times of you guys doing projects together, did you ever have the thought that like any of you would excel and succeed to the level that a lot of the projects have that you guys have worked on together? I
mean, yes and no. By the time we got to actually making Cannibal the Musical, at that point, that's when we really started believing in ourselves. Before that, we were just a bunch of film majors, making films and having fun and doing that. But then as soon as the idea of doing a feature started to get real, that's when we started to believe. And you don't really get a feature made unless you really believe in yourself and the possibility of it. So you have to really trick yourself into it in a kind of a weird way, and then everybody else along the way.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We
were talking a couple of weeks ago, actually, about we just passed the 150-year anniversary of when Packer got his entire team lost. Was this incident a rather big deal where you guys were going to school even before you made the film?
Oh, yes. Huge deal. So I grew up in Colorado, and I grew up in California, and I came to Colorado to CU, and the first thing you notice is it's the Alfred Packer Grill. It's the main campus, cafeteria where everybody gathers on a daily basis. So there's the Alfred Packer Grill, and then when I was there, They even had Alfred Packer Day, which actually Primus played on Alfred Packer Day, like the very first year I was there.
Oh my gosh!
They're serving beer, and it's a big barbecue, and they have a lookalike contest, and they have the local radio station. And it was a huge party that they'd have every year for Alfred Packer, and it was just a really big deal. And so I didn't know nothing about Alfred Packer till I got to see you Boulder, and then it was in your face every day, literally.
That's really funny because, as an outsider, one might be a little bit concerned about what they do to celebrate Alfred Packer Day. It's like
it was rather odd. I do. Yeah. But then it was super fun, and so it was easy to just go along for the ride.
Yeah.
But I didn't, go. If you'd asked me about my first Alfred Packer Day, if I'd be making a feature about him, I would have said, I don't think so.
Yeah, right.
And Trey Parker, his dad was a geologist.
Yeah.
And so, so he's teaching everything about Colorado history and the lay of the land and the trail that the miners went on. So Trey had been studying Alfred Packer his entire life by the time I met him.
Was that where the idea for this came from? Where it was a conversation with him and it was like, we should turn this into a feature thing? Or was it like you're just eating at the grill one day and you're just like, oh, this will be fun?
Actually, look, it was Trey's idea. He was like, I want to do a feature about Alfred Packer. And we're like, oh, great, let's do it. A feature film, sure. And we were going to do the whole feature in his parents' backyard for $10,000, and we were going to do it over this Christmas break, and just kind of bang it out. That was the idea. But at that point, we didn't have anything together. We had half a script, and it didn't snow that year, so there was no snow. So we didn't do it. Then it cut to about 3 to 6 months later. And Trey was engaged to his high school sweetheart, Leanne, and they were getting married. They had their honeymoon planned out to go to Hawaii. Everything was on, and then he walked in with her and another man, and it just went all south.
Oh my gosh!
I've never seen anyone more heartbroken than Trey. He couldn't eat or sleep for a week. He looked pale and sickly, and he was just super bummed out. And about 6 weeks later, I got a call from them saying, we're going to shoot the trailer for Alfred Packer the Musical. When can you get back here? And so that's when we got Alex and Matt and Dean and a few other guys, and we basically shot the fake trailer for Alfred Packer the Musical, as it was called before Cannibal. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that what inspired Trey to get the whole team together that weekend was the trailer he had written was basically it was sort of his way of expunging the beast. It was a cathartic trailer about how this bloody horse named after his fiancée, Leanne, was sleeping around with all these other cowboys. And that was kind of the whole joke, and and so and that's where When I Was on Top of You came up, and that's the song got originally written after that heartbreak. And he just turned the heartbreak into this trailer, and all the pain turned into this trailer, and the fake trailer turned out amazing. So by the end of the summer, when everyone was getting back to school, we had this trailer, and the head of the CU Boulder film department, this guy Virgil Grillo, got really excited. And he's like, guys, I think I can raise $50,000 for that feature or something like that. We were like, okay, great. And then that sort of planted the seed in our mind that we were raising money for this film and it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And we figured out, all the business aspects. By then we knew how to make a little movie, but we didn't know anything about starting a business or opening a bank account or, all the things that you need to do to raise money and do a feature. So starting a small business. So we took 3 legal consultations. We read all these books about how to make, a feature. We read every sort of, film autobiography. We read The Evil Dead autobiography. We read Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Videotape autobiography. And then we'd meet at Red Robin, where they had bottomless fries and drinks. And we
very
would
crucial.
There hours on end. Yes, crucial, especially in college. And so we just spent hours at Red Robin brainstorming about how to make this feature.
Now,
and so, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, like, you made the trailer and you started this momentum of trying to figure out, how to get the business aspect of this rolling. Is that kind of what got Lloyd Kaufman and Trauma Studios involved with this?
No. Lloyd and Trauma didn't come in so much later.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah. So we finished the film, and once you finish the film, well, then it's time to sell the film.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty hard to get a feature film made in the first place. No matter who you are. But then it can often be even harder to sell it once you made it. And for us, we're like, this movie is gonna sell because it's got every genre. It's a courtroom drama. It's a love story. It's a musical. It's a horror. It's a historical film. We're like, it's got every genre. How can it not sell? Of course, by the time we, go to send it to film festivals and send it to people like distributors in Hollywood, the response was not as grand as we thought it might be. But it wasn't completely off either. We got rejected from multiple film festivals. And at that point, we were submitting VHS tapes. And sometimes you get the VHS tape and you'd see that, like, they'd watched like the first 8 minutes and didn't bother to rewind it.
Oh, yeah.
So that would happen a lot. But then eventually we broke through. We got in the Denver Film Festival. We had connections, and we got in, and we had sold out screenings and standing ovations and just as great a screenings as you could possibly had. And that gave us some more confidence again. Then we started breaking into a film festival here and there. And of course, we had grand visions of getting into Sundance. But then, as it turned out, we never even got a rejection letter from Sundance. And we were like, that's how low we were. We didn't even get the letter out. So like a week before Sundance, Trey calls me and he's like, I had this vision that we were going to be in Sundance. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. They didn't even reject us. Then that just sort of a bell went off in my head. I was like, they didn't reject us, so why not just show up anyway?
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And, I after raising money for Cannibal, I had a new level of confidence. I wasn't worried about people laughing in my face, like if I was pitching them something anymore, And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to call these hotels in Sundance and see if they're available. What the hell? And then in one call, it was available. And I booked, a projector and a room. And so I got to call the team, like, we're going to Sundance. And so we made all these fake, posters. We would cut out reviews from other movies and then stick them over our movie poster, and then we just postered the town. And like even one of our posters said like Daniel Day-Lewis was incredible, things like that. We just didn't care.
Right.
And so then we crashed on the floor of these MTV producers who'd also done a story about us a year before. And they gave us free floor space to crash. And then they decided we were the most interesting story there. And so they ended up following us around while we're stealing press passes and having our rogue screenings and just crashing parties and just doing all the things. And that's, ultimately where we met an entertainment lawyer, and that paved the way for a lot of things and turned out to be like the smartest thing we've done in a long time, scratching Sundance. Yeah. And then the year following, then Slam Dance Festival emerged. And then a whole history of dance-off festivals happened for the next 5 years. So...
Right.
Including, because then we ended up doing Undance Film Festival. Years later, we ended up producing this thing called the Lap Dance Film Festival. That was a lot of fun. So we had a lot of fun crashing Sundance. But we still hadn't met Lloyd Kaufman at that point. We didn't meet Lloyd until we actually got to Los Angeles and were couch surfing for months on end. And Lloyd was the first person to say, I would love to release your film Cannibal the Musical. And we were thrilled. We were like, we got a distributor. But the lawyer we just met at Sundance, he told us he would rather poke needles in his eyes than take the deal that Trauma had proposed to us.
Oh, my God.
So we said, sorry, Trauma, we can't do it. We got a William Morris agent. We got this cool lawyer now who says we can't do the deal. So we took another year of going around and taking meetings with different people who would all say they loved our movie and what's your next project, but nobody wanted to do anything with Cannibal. So after a year, we went back to Lloyd and Michael Trauma and said, we would like to take that deal. And so against our lawyer's best wishes, we signed on with Trauma. And it's been great ever since. They were definitely the right distributor for this. They got the movie. most distributors have come and gone. It's been over 30 years. They're still there. And
True.
And they've just been great to work with. So we were blessed, and it was just there's no more appropriate distributor for Cannibal the Musical than Troma. So, so it's been cool.
Do you find that this film has more, and maybe it grows even more as time goes on, that cult following behind it? Does it grow more and more as time goes on, or have you seen like a plateau on it at all?
Well, I'll tell you, my joke about Cannibal the Musical is that it was my first project, and it will probably be the last project that I ever work on, because I've been executive producing it as a stage play since about 1998. And so I've seen like hundreds of small productions happen. And, each production kind of helps the next production. And then also, the longevity of South Park, it keeps bringing new fans in, and new fans then who get really into it ultimately like want to discover, what's the other stuff. And then when they stumble upon Cannibal, they're presently surprised or horrified or intrigued or whatever it might be. And I just don't know what it is, because it's not the production value. It's not any one thing. It's just that it's just all the things it adds up to is just this culty movie that people keep coming back to, and the fact that we're talking about it 30 years later is quite a miracle. So.
I remember for me it was crazy because I was like I want to say like my late teens and like early 20s. And we had all heard about this movie, but we couldn't find it anywhere. And then I finally found a copy on DVD, and I still remember the first time I watched that movie. Me and my friends were crying. We were laughing so damn hard. And like you said, it's 30 plus years later, we're still talking about it. And I'm curious if that led to other doors opening up, because there was another series called Time Warped in Color, which is another, hilarious series. Was Cannibal a big part of the progression of that happening?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So around the time when we were couch surfing through Hollywood and trying to sell Cannibal the Musical, we took some like ridiculous meetings, which I've talked about in my book, Spadoinkle, The Making of Cannibal the Musical. Nice. And some of these meetings would be with like Paramount executives who'd be like, I think you guys should go and make the next Mrs. Doubtfire. And we'd be like, what? Did you just see what we just did? And it turned out that like Mrs. Doubtfire was like the #1 movie that week. And that executive had no creativity other than just say we should try to make what the #1 movie was that week. We met with the same person like a year later. And she's like, you know what I think you guys should do? You guys should make the next Lethal Weapon. And we're like, what? And Lethal Weapon was the top movie that week. And that's all she could think, like, right? And then we meet this woman named Pam Brady at Fox. And Pam was the first person to say, I think you guys should do another Cannibal the Musical, but just do it every week. And we were like, okay, well, that's a crazy idea. But finally, somebody who recognizing us for the work that we just shown and asking how we could kind of like, build off of that.
True.
So Pam became a key part of, the creation of South Park, and she was a writer on Team America, and she's been a key part of everything. And so she was the person who understood that, and we became great friends with her. And then we told Pam, look, we're tired of just freezing our asses off in the mountains every week. We couldn't see that as a weekly.
Yeah.
We just been through that experience, So we're like, what if we take the style and structure of Cannibal the Musical and apply it to history? And so that's what we got with Time Warped. And with Time Warped is, the joke there was we were making a movie or a show about these lost musicals from the 50s. And as it turned out, they became Trey Parker's sort of lost musicals, right? They never got released. So we did the story of Aaron and Moses, and it was about how Aaron was the better-looking, more outspoken brother of the two, and he was pissed off because he wasn't the chosen one like Moses. So we're covering them freeing the Hebrew slaves, and that was the first pilot we did, and that went well. It was great fun to produce, and we got back and we found out we were getting a series of 6 greenlit, and we were ecstatic, and we were like, this is great. So we've been fighting for it. And then a few months go by, and they say, well, it's going to be 4 episodes. Then a couple more months go by, and it's going to be 2 episodes. A couple more months go by, and they're like, well, we're going to do another pilot. and it's going to be for Fox Kids. Fox Kids is the #1 network, so this is great. You're going to get a bigger budget to do another one. So we were all thrilled. Well, we were thrilled to be getting another pilot, but we were super bummed to not be getting a series anymore. And that took a year, and like when you're couch surfing, it's like dog years, It's like it's the time is not the same. So we do the pilot. This pilot was a nightmare to produce. We were way over our heads. We decided we were going to do the story of John Powell, who found Lake Powell, and he was a guy who kind of was second to every major monument. He got beaten. He just missed the Grand Canyon. He missed all these things. But he's this kind of ironic person in history, and we thought it'd be too hard to shoot on a river. So we just said, let's do 1 million BC Africa, because that's going to be easier. And so we did the story of Rom and Jewel, which was basically Romeo and Juliet set in prehistoric times. So it was a love affair between an Australopithecus and a Homo erectus. And those are the two warring families, and it was a great way to teach kids about evolution. So it was a nightmare to produce, and then as it turned out, that year Fox Kids was still #1, and since they were #1, they were like, we don't got to cancel any of our shows. So sorry, we're not picking up any pilots.
Oh man!
And thanks for playing, but good luck. And at that point, we were devastated and sad, and like late November, and Trey was like, I don't even have money for Christmas presents for my family.
Jeez.
And that's when Brian Graydon, who's our boss at Fox, who's Pam's higher up, he said, I'm going to give you guys a couple $1,000s to take that crappy Christmas cartoon that you showed me that I don't want to pick up, but I'm going to send that as a Christmas card to all my executive friends in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so that's how the Spirit of Christmas was born. And so I gave a couple of grand, and then Trey and Matt and Butters, Eric Stow, got together at Trey's house and made Spirit of Christmas. And then a few months later, the phone was ringing off the hook trying to find out who made Spirit of Christmas, because there's no credits on there. And that became sort of like the first viral video.
Man, that's an incredible kind of like, I don't want to call it a rags to riches thing, but I mean, you guys were like really at the bottom line at that point. And then that one simple thing is just blown up to what has become kind of the pillar for all of you in your careers, which is incredible.
Yeah, no, it was like after a feature, 2 pilots, and numerous live action shorts, those crappy little animations were the thing that just like busted through the roof,
Right.
And like again, like you've seen those probably, but like, and it was like the first VHS bootlegs, right? So like you would see a copy of a copy of a copy, and the quality just kept getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
But because it was so crappy to start with, it just didn't really hurt the comedy at all, and just made it better in some ways. So, so just one of those, dumb luck kind of cosmic timing things.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, you guys did a lot. I mean, obviously you did Orgasmo, and when South Park took off, did that kind of change the relationship that you all had together, or you still remain pretty tight?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes. I mean, like, I got sort of pushed aside because I was focused on all the live action stuff. So, like, when South Park happened, I was like a production coordinator in charge of like cutting out Cartman's, and my job was to basically track down Primus and get them to do the opening song.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, like, so like the Spirit of Christmas started this bidding war for South Park, and then which was great. But then also like part of our insane mission was like, we're coming with Cannibal the Musical, and we're gonna at least go out with Orgasmo, just like the most silly, ridiculous superhero movie ever.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had been trying to get Orgasmo produced all the time, but we were trying to sell Cannibal and get Time Warp going. We still had this concept to do Orgasmo. And then, of course, when things got hot with Spirit of Christmas, we finally found financing for Orgasmo. So we shot the pilot of South Park, and then I left that early to go start pre-production for Orgasmo. And we got Orgasmo shot, and about halfway through our shooting of Orgasmo, then that was when we got word from Comedy Central that they were picking up 6 episodes of South Park. So it was like it was all happening at the same time. So we finished Orgasmo, and we were doing post-production of Orgasmo while pre-production for South Park happened. And so I was really like focused on working on Orgasmo, another talk about like cult underground movie. And meanwhile, and then meanwhile South Park was happening. So it split me off of South Park ultimately, for better and for worse. And that's sort of how it went down. But I'm still close with Trey and Matt, and they've ended up, they've done a lot of other stuff together in the past or post after that, like financing a lot of my projects, like Electric Apricot, Quest for Festeroo, which was Les Claypool's directorial debut and a chance for me to make fun of everything I've held sacred, from the Grateful Dead to Burning Man. And so that was great. So, so we're still close. I've been helping out on some Casa Bonita related projects lately too. And,
oh yeah, that's right. Cause they just took ownership of that, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they did. So so we just did, I have an art and design company called Califari and Califari Studios. We do a lot of stuff for the cannabis industry, but we also have a network of artists that create amazing posters, packaging, skateboards, and merchandise. So we just did a line of skateboards, skis, snowboards, and apparel for Casa Bonita with this amazing artist from Atlanta named Matt Leenick.
That's awesome.
Now, I heard you mention this a little bit ago. Mark told me about Electric Apricot, and I did not know it existed until he brought it up to me. You have to tell me more about this film, how you got connected, directly. I assume you knew Les from getting Primus on board with South Park, but like, where in the world did this project come from? Because this sounds incredible. Yeah.
So when we were trying to just figure out music for the South Park pilot, I'm an old school Deadhead. Matt likes like the Police and Bad Brains, and Trey like Elton John and The Cure.
Okay.
And so the one band that we all three could agree on was Primus, and so that was sort of like the middle ground, I guess, if there was a strange middle ground, but there it was. And so anyway, tracking Les down, it was amazing because we had released Cannibal the Musical in England before we did in the U.S. And Les happens to be a huge fan of British comedy and Monty Python, and he just knows all the weird comics from the 60s and 70s and inner workings of weird Brit comedy. So, so he happened when he got the I think we sent him the Spirit of Christmas. That's all we sent him. Yeah, so when he got Spirit of Christmas and he got my letter pitching him to do the show, he already owned a copy of Cannibal, which was like he was probably one of 5 people to already have a copy of that movie. I swear to God. So that was just made it meant to be. So he came on board, and we became great friends, and I would go to his New Year's Eve concerts and lots of shows, and we just became tighter over that course of 5 years, and I ended up art directing some of his New Year's Eve shows and doing some collaborations. And then he went on a vacation to Trey's house in Kauai, and came back super excited, and he called me up and he's like, I got this idea for a feature. It's called Electric Apricot, or I want to do a mockumentary about a jam band. And I was right there for that idea. Yeah. And actually, it was funny because he was so excited. He came and he called Trey and Matt too. And so Trey and Matt, I don't know if you remember, there was a jam band episode of South Park.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Where, like, a jam band comes to South Park. Well, Trey got that idea directly from Les. So they're doing the jam band episode, and then we're basically, Les and I, recruiting our friends to see if we can make this live action mockumentary work. So I called up one of my best friends, John Cordy, who had this band Vinyl, who's also a very funny actor and comedian, and then Les called up 2 of his close buddies, Adam Gates, who's famous for being Bob Seacock and Primus lore, and then this other force of nature named Brian Kehoe, this extraordinary guitar player, who's also a really funny guy.
Yeah.
And so we basically just put those 4 together in a room to see if they could get a jam session going and to see if there's band chemistry. And immediately there was, and we were filming everything. So we just started going for it. It was just this run and gun movie where we were raising money and shooting it and just going for it. And one summer, and from like beginning of 2005 to like the end of 2006 was the production period when we made this happen. And because these guys were all real musicians, and because of Les's name and clout, we were able to book festivals and real show dates and make a real tour and treat it like it was a real band that we were following, except we had, sort of scripted improv scenes that we all collaborated on. And Les had developed an overarching story about this band that's, getting their first record made and then getting their first breakthrough festival date at the infamous Festaroo in Northwest Portland area. So it was, mockumentary, got to make fun of everything. I held Sacred from the Grateful Dead to Burning Man, and we got real jam banders in the show too. Like, so Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead is in there. Let's see, Mike Gordon from Fish is in there. Warren Haynes
from Government Mule,
and Seth Gordon and Matt Stone play tapers, and so we got fun cameos. We shot it for nothing. I kind of consider it Les Claypool's Cannibal the Musical, in the sense that we shot it. It was very low budget. We did it all kind of in our own backyard with our own friends. So it was just a real spontaneous kind of film, and it turned out great. And then but with the making of, we went through so many nightmares and just insane things. We should have just been doing a making of. That would have been good, because we ended up selling it to National Lampoon, who were making a big debut and getting their whole brand back together. And we were all excited about working with them. And they released the movie, and they were willing to give us the theatrical, all the things. And then it turned out that they were crooks, and they got busted for stock fraud. And by the FBI, and then they ended up going to jail, and we ended up getting the rights back to our film from them in jail.
Oh my gosh.
Which is ironic if you watch the movie.
Yeah, it's just so ironic. It's just there's so many things. We need to do a proper making of Electric Apricot at some point, because it was just, we could spend an hour talking about all the haywire things there. But then, lo and behold, Troma has the DVD rights now for Electric Apricot.
Oh my gosh!
So, God bless Troma. But and it's on, and we've seeded it. You can stream it now on Amazon or iTunes, and we even up-resed it recently. So hopefully, there's up-res streams available of that really little movie.
That's great. It's one that Mark told me about it. It was one of the few things that I didn't really know much about, in your projects and stuff. And he showed me just a little clip of it, and I'm dying to find it. And I'm glad you said it's on Amazon, because I just happen to have a Prime account, and I'm going to go find it and watch it, because I have to go see this thing.
Although I don't know I don't think the up-res version has been put to Amazon yet or not. We've been waiting in a queue to get the up-res version.
Gotcha.
So if the picture looks extra crappy, then it's not the up-res version. But this is the thing. We were trying to make it look like a student film, and, we succeeded.
Yeah. It's that idea, like you said earlier, the more times you copy of a copy of a copy, it almost makes it funnier. So yeah. So hopefully so. And definitely check out Electric Apricot. It's like a dry British comedy lands at Bonnaroo. That's sort of how I describe it. I love it.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I really appreciate your time. Your film's been a huge part of my life growing up. I really appreciate the time that you took with us today and to talk about all that. That is so cool. And we wish really nothing but the best for you and your family and friends always.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And are you guys in Kalamazoo?
Yeah.
It's amazing, because for my company Califari, I sent a bunch of art to the Kalamazoo West Michigan Cannabis Guild or something.
Oh, okay.
They got about 10 of my canvases there, so trying to track them down.
Very cool. What was say their name again?
It's like the West Michigan Cannabis Guild or something like that.
Okay.
I'll follow. I'll find out. I'll send you their info. You guys can go there.
For sure. Yeah. if you have anything on like Amazon that you want to like send me a link to, because I'm probably going to include like a copy of your book from Amazon. I'm going to include a couple links in the article that we write about this, so that if people want to buy some of your stuff, I can get some links in there too.
Yeah, like right now it's just the book in Amazon, but well, we didn't talk about this, but there's actually not one but two DVDs coming out for Cannibal the Musical. They're going to be up-resing this picture, and one is going to be a UK release and the other is going to be a US release, and that's going to happen in November. Awesome. I know there's going to be a new making of documentary in it. And we're going to have CannibalTheStore.com open probably in a couple of months. We're going to be able to find the DVDs when they release, my book, and some other fun merch.
That is awesome.
That's probably not going to be open for another couple of months, but that is coming. CannibalTheStore.com.
That is awesome, dude.
All just in time for the 150th anniversary of Alfred Packer, man. It's good timing.
Well, that's what we were timing it around, of course. You know, we were like, people are going to go nuts for the 150th anniversary, and we want to be there to cash in.
Yes, yep. Nailed it.
And you know what? Maybe this opens the door to Alfred Packer Trouble in Jamaica.
Well, God damn it. Hopefully so. Hopefully so. I mean, that is ideally, that's my retirement project that I'm dreaming about.
You do Cannibal the Musical 2 Electric Boogaloo? Is that?
Yes.
That could be. Well, we also wanted to do Orgasmo 2 Trouble in Tokyo. That was another one.
Amazing. Oh my God.
That's on the list as well.
God, Jason, thanks so much, man. Seriously, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been a blast, man. We appreciate your time.
Awesome. Right on. Thanks, guys.
Later, brother.
Cheers.